How lucky are you? Have you ever thought about how much of the success that you currently have is due to your own hard work and how much is actually due to external factors beyond your control? Luck. New York Times bestselling author Michael Lewis explains just how lucky he was to get his first big break.
One night, I was invited to a dinner where I sat next to the wife of a big shot of a big Wall Street investment bank, Salomon Brothers. She more or less forced her husband to give me a job. I knew next to nothing about Salomon Brothers, but Salomon Brothers happened to be where Wall Street was being reinvented into the Wall Street we've come to know and love today. When I got there, I was assigned almost arbitrarily to the very best job in the place to observe the growing madness. They turned me into the house derivatives expert. A year and a half later, Salomon Brothers was handing me a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars to give advice about derivatives to professional investors.
Several years later, Lewis left Salomon Brothers and potentially millions of dollars on the table to write his first book, Liar's Poker. It became the it book for anyone interested in understanding the changes taking place inside Wall Street at that point in time. In a commencement address to the Princeton class of 2012, Lewis describes what happened after the success of Liar's Poker.
All of a sudden, people were telling me I was a born writer. This was absurd. Even I could see that there was another, more true narrative, with luck as its theme. What were the odds of being seated at that dinner next to the Salomon Brothers lady, of landing inside the best Wall Street firm to write the story of the age, of landing in the seat with the best view of the business, of having parents who didn't disinherit me, but instead sighed and said, "Do it if you must," of having had that sense of must kindled inside of me by a professor of art history at Princeton, of having been let into Princeton in the first place.
Now, as a senior at Princeton, Lewis had become obsessed with writing, and actually he was really proud of his senior thesis. And he took his senior thesis and he went and he defended it, and he sat there waiting for the professor to say something about the writing, and finally he says, "Hey, what did you think about the writing?" And the professor looked at him and says, "Put it this way, never try and make a living at this." So it's not that Lewis possessed some type of incredible writing skill at that point in time, but Lewis, luckily, had a front row seat for one of the most engaging financial stories of the time. And it just so happened he knew how to write a little. Luck made Liar's Poker possible, which then paved the way for a number of other New York Times best-selling books, several big screen adaptations, and currently a net worth of over $100 million. Luck. Whether we want to admit it or not, it plays a significant role in all of our lives. So, think about some of the successes and failures in your own life and ask yourself, how much of this was luck?